Welcome, everybody, to the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield, and I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I am joined, as always, by our director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, my question for you to start today's episode is, what would you do with $331 million?
Probably buy a soccer team. I'm dead serious too.
You
could buy like a league one team for like 20 million. So yeah, I would definitely.
League One is the bottom or
third tier.
The
other reason I know this is because I was reading an article today about like a 20-year-old tech entrepreneur who's in conversations of buying like a team called the Morecambe Shrimpers, which is just a sweet name. It's a small like team. But okay. but the number is 20 million is what they're being discussed, and I was like, if I had a lot of money, I'd definitely.
What league are they in for 20 million? Is that like League 5?
Third division of the British.
Third
pyramid.
division.
Yeah, they're not good though. They're like one of the worst teams in the division.
Well, wouldn't they get relegated to the next lowest league?
Yeah, but okay. They needed money. They have major money issues. So
gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. But that's very high. That would be very high up on my list.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going to find out potentially what Rafael Devers is going to do with that kind of money because this is an emergency podcast.
New year, new Red Sox.
New year,
moving quick, getting stuff done early.
It's funny.
It's lovely.
Ian, I was going through my closet the other day and I found a black Red Sox cap I had from probably like high school, if not high school, then early college. Back when I was buying all my New Era fitteds and wearing them backwards. And I was like, should I be wearing this because of the offseason the Red Sox are having? And now I don't need to because I can be happy again and wear my Wepas hat that I got for Christmas. So
it is amazing how much the whole tone or kind of like mood around the offseason has flipped with this news today.
It was like a collective sigh of relief. The pressure being lifted from everyone's shoulders that like this team had no idea what it was doing, that like no one who knew what they were talking about really thought that. But like,
yeah, like I thought they would get it done eventually. My fear was that it would run into the season and that's all anyone was going to talk about. And I think having this is like I tweeted about it, having this as like a cloud or a distraction, like looming over the team, I think would have doomed them even more so than anything they did this offseason.
Well, you even said it before, we'll pivot to the intro after this, but you even said, if they didn't get a deal done this offseason, like the time to trade him was now.
Yeah, because
the problem was they weren't going to get much. They weren't going to get enough.
They weren't going to, but they would have got less at the deadline. Your leverage decreases as the season goes on.
Yeah, they just would have been over a barrel. They had to get this done. So we're going to talk about the Rafael Devers contract. We're going to talk a little bit about the 40-man situation because you all demanded it, and we'll get to some of your emails. In the meantime, if you want to support the podcast, you can tell a friend. You can tweet about the show while you're making the raviolis and sauce leading up to Christmas, like our buddy Lou Merloni did the other day. Thank you, Lou. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to the show. And you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. Get some neat perks by pledging a certain amount per episode. Ian and I were talking before the show about when we're going to do the Stupid Bad News Bears episode. Not stupid episode.
It's not stupid.
It's stupid in the sense that we haven't done it yet.
Well, no, we've just been busy. We've been busy. Yeah, it's been a lot.
We've been busy kvetching.
Yeah.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that maybe in like February because things will slow down a lot. So we're going to get that done too. You'll only have access if you're a supporter on patreon.com/SoxProspects. And of course, you can send your emails to podcast@SoxProspects.com because we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. Without further ado, Ian.
Well, no, but I mean, I understand we had to do this like shadow intro because we're not actually going to talk about the Devers thing yet. We have to talk about the most important thing that happened in this last few days.
Oh.
Big Joe Davis retired.
Oh, gosh, that's right. Should we just can we have a moment of silence? I'm dead serious. Can we do like 5 seconds for Joe? I mean, he's alive, but 5 seconds.
He chose to do this, so
he did.
Yeah.
All right. All right, that's enough. Yeah, Joe Davis retired, man. That sucks. That's terrible.
I was like legitimately, I had a really bad day that day.
You did. You had a terrible day that day.
That was like Joe Davis was awesome.
Yes,
And
he
like,
was.
and
He
like,
was
this is
great.
the thing is
He
like,
still is
so,
great. He's not dead. I
no, he
realized
still
after
is.
the fact that my tweet looked like he died.
No,
but like he's alive. He just
in all
retired.
seriousness though, like we go to a lot of minor league games. We cover these guys in depth. Like we cover them over the course of their career. And like Joe Davis was one of the funnest guys to watch. And obviously he wasn't like, I wasn't paying as close attention to him as like some of the other prospects when they were
but
at
the
the
other
plate.
Greenville fans were paying great attention
That's
to
the
Joe.
thing is like there are certain players
They
who just
loved him.
connect with fans
Yes,
and make
correct.
minor league baseball and give it that feel that is impossible to replicate in any other sport. And guys like Joe
Yes,
Davis are what make it
correct.
the greatest game alive. Is like,
Yeah,
you have a guy who he looks like he should be like, I don't know, doing
a
something.
mechanic, which he does work on cars. Like,
yeah, he looks like he should be living in like hunting the land and like living on a farm somewhere and doing stuff like that. And he also plays baseball and just hits like 450-foot home runs.
Yeah,
and
he just hits tanks.
He connects with the crowd. He just gets to go out there every day, and it's just a lot of fun. Like I remember back in Lowell, like he had a couple of massive moments in their playoff run during that final season.
And like consecutive games.
Yeah, I was at both those games. It was like a walk-off hit in one, and then the other one, I think he scored the winning run. And watching him try to run the bases was just a joy. And it's he's the kind of person that makes minor league baseball fun, and it's sad to see him retiring. But I mean, I completely understand it from his perspective. Like at some point, you have to start planning for your future. And as much as fun as he was never really going to get out of the mid minors, probably. But
no, I mean, even this past season, he went through extended periods where he was on the bench and was playing once or twice a week.
Exactly,
and there may have been reasons for that. There may not have been, but like,
yeah.
But still,
I
get it. I get it. Like, why am I doing this for this pay when like I'm probably not going to get the payoff in the long run?
Exactly.
That's why you lose guys.
But at the same time, I enjoyed every minute he was with the Red Sox. Obviously, given where they drafted him, like perfectly fine outcome. You got a minor league depth player for 3 years, and we wish him nothing but the best in his future plans because he was awesome. So
Joe Davis,
you will be missed in 2023 and beyond for the Red Sox, but good luck.
As for Joe Davis's large adult son.
Yeah, sorry. We had to talk about that because it was a very important situation. But now we'll talk about people also want to hear about Rafael Devers.
11 years, $331 million, including. So I guess this is the other thing that happened since the last episode is the team came to
it was the 117 first, right?
Well, that's what I was saying. The other thing that happened was the Red Sox agreed to a 1-year deal worth $17.5 million for the coming season for his third arbitration year. And people were trying to read into it. And honestly, Ian, it was one of those things where it's like, it's not a bad thing. Some people were saying it was a bad thing. And it's like, no, that's step one.
Yeah.
Because even if he was going to sign an extension, he was not going to get the full contract amount for this season. Like
They weren't going to like fold it. Yeah. This year.
They weren't going to pay him $30 million this year. He was going to get something like 17, maybe 20.
Yeah.
Like if they were really going to like reward him for signing the extension.
Yep.
So that was just step one.
Well, and I also think I'd much rather this situation than like what happened with Mookie Betts, where you couldn't agree on a number and you literally had to go to a hearing where you argue why they're not a good baseball player.
Mookie Betts didn't go to an argument.
No, not Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts, what Mookie Betts did
he never signed
he didn't sign his tender.
That's what it is.
He didn't sign his tender pre-arb because he didn't feel like they were paying him enough.
Fair. But it's better than going for not Mookie Betts, but better than going to an arb situation where you literally have to argue against your player. Like I told you. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have a friend whose brother works for an agency, and he was telling me once about a player they represented who, as a player people knew, who went to an arbitration hearing, and like hearing the stuff the team was saying about him irreparably harmed the player's relationship with the team. Like, yeah, money talks at some point, and like if they gave him the money, he would have stayed with them. But it's like he was never going to give that team a hometown discount ever again. That was for sure. It became it became a business, and it was no longer about this is the team that drafted and developed me, and I'm loyal. It was about you're going to go into an arbitration hearing and say that about me, like. I see how it is, which frankly is how it should be to start if we're being honest here. Right. So 11-year deal, $331 million. That includes the 1 year, $17.5 million contract. So as everyone was talking about on Twitter, once that part got reported on correctly,
Yeah.
unlike the initial report, #Bob.
Well, no, so it's kind of wild. The initial reports were all coming from like this guy
Carlos
and
Baerga.
Moses Fabian on Twitter had it yesterday.
Yeah.
Like
Carlos Baerga had it
earlier
this
today. He had it this morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was making the rounds in like the Latin media. And there was definitely some smoke with it this morning, and then obviously it proved out to be correct.
Sure.
That they they got it done, which is they had to do it. I mean, that's I think what it comes down to is
they had no choice but to pay the man.
Yeah, they backed themselves.
Not that they weren't going to before. So that don't read into it that we're saying they weren't going to and the fans were.
I think it pushed the timetable forward because
did it?
I think you had here. I know this.
What else are they doing right now?
Well,
I guess trying to find a
Winterfest is in like 2 weeks. That would have been a disaster.
Winter weekend would have been,
or whatever it's called.
Well, look at what happened to John Henry at the Winter Classic.
That's what I'm saying. I like that it's done because now we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to talk about what's going on with Devers, as you said. We don't have to talk about is it time to trade him? They can just focus on building a sustainable contender and a team that is trying to win a championship with him centered around him for this year and beyond. And that is a good place to be right now.
Yeah, I mean the only point I was trying to make is that it's not like after the Winter Classic, John Henry got on the phone with Bloom, was like, we should pay Rafi.
Is that your John Henry impression?
Yeah, it's terrible, but
that's really bad.
You've got a better one?
No, I'm not going to do an impression.
No, it's fine. Anyway, so they got the negotiation done. That's a good thing. That's a win for a team that desperately needed a win. Pretty desperately. We agree, right?
Yeah, I mean, the offseason, obviously, the departure of Xander Bogaerts has taken its toll. Like the Red Sox, in terms of where their current state of fandom was in a dark place, and I think people they needed something to be positive about more that isn't just like, hey, they signed this old guy to this older veteran player to like a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal,
or here's our big ticket offseason signing. Masataka Yoshida,
who's going to the WBC and not going to be at spring training now.
Who 3/4 probably of the league thinks we grossly overpaid.
Yeah, they needed something that the fan base was 100% behind, and also in baseball terms, it's just a good piece of business. Like, this is a very good deal.
It's a great deal.
The total number is fine. The fact that there's no opt-outs is fantastic. As we saw, opt-outs are a dangerous animal. We saw it with Xander Bogaerts. There's no trade clause. So in the future, if they do want to go that route, that's an option. There's and most importantly to me is it goes through his age 36 season.
Yeah.
Sweet spot. We're not talking about, a deal that's going to be taking him to ages 40, 41, 42. Like,
how
these
old
guys.
Is Bogaerts at the end of this Padres deal? Yeah.
41. Or even the Judge deal goes into his 40s. They
Which
locked
the
up.
Judge deal might be bad in legit 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, this deal makes the Bogaerts deal look inexcusable. It is one of the most outrageous contracts I think that will be given out during the spending spree any of the next coming years, because to give a soon to be 31-year-old guy who's might not even be a shortstop and is already showing declines at the plate that much money, basically a little lower AAV than Devers got, is insane to me. He got what, 20 million less than Devers, or 30 million less than Devers, basically.
Bogaerts got 280, right?
11,280.
Yeah.
So, okay, 50 million. Sorry, but when you factor in where they are, their 5-year age difference.
Well, the fact that so take out, use the AAV from the last 10 years, because the first year of the Devers contract doesn't really count.
Right. That's kind of what I was going on. AAV, it's like 2 million a year difference or something, or 3 million a year difference. No, it's more than that, but whatever. It's like 4 or 5 million a year. So it's a great deal for the Red Sox. It's a great deal for Rafael Devers. I think it shows that he wanted to be here, because I think would you agree he left money on the table? I think he could have gotten more if he went straight to free agency.
I think he maybe not left money on the table.
Okay, maybe not AAV, but
could have gotten more.
He left years on the table that would have taken the overall package higher.
What he could have done is a 6-year deal that got him to 32 and gotten one last big 6-7 year payday.
Or I also think, though, if he had gone to free agency, I bet he could get 13, 14 years this offseason.
Yeah,
like
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Like that, he could have got 13, 14 years. Like if
based on what guys are getting this offseason,
yeah,
if he has a monster year this
Correa
year
got
in a terrible free agent class next year.
Yeah, horrendous.
He would have been at worst.
How much money is Ohtani going to get next offseason?
God.
He's going to get 50 million a year. I think he's going to get 50 million a year.
You think he does the Scherzer deal, but like
no, I think he'll get like I could see him.
You can't sign a guy for 50 million for 10 years. That's nuts.
If you can, it's him because he's literally two players. Yeah, like how much as a?
I could see 40. I could see 40.
This is a different discussion, but yeah. But anyway, like they got it done, and
they did.
I think that just the most important thing to me, like take away from this is now you can see there's a plan. You have a cornerstone to build around, and at the end of the day, baseball, you need stars to win in baseball. You don't need an entire roster full of them, but you need those anchors on your team. And the Red Sox have one locked up through his entire prime.
They do.
And
they do. It's true.
There's no way you can spin this other than it's a massive win. Like they did what everyone was clamoring for. They got him at a good number. They got him at a good number for him. I think he's the highest paid third baseman in history now.
He's one of the highest paid players.
Like he's the sixth highest paid player I want to say of all time.
I thought it was seventh,
maybe seventh. But anyway,
in terms of total money in the deal.
But you got a person who grew up. He was a Red Sox fan. He signed with the Red Sox in lieu of taking bigger money elsewhere, as Eddie Romero talks about on our podcast back in the day, like last year when we had him on.
Yep.
Like
when he signed as an international free agent.
Yeah, they signed. Yep. This is someone they've brought up, developed. I mean, Kelly was putting photos of when we first saw him in spring training back in like 2014. It made me feel really old because he looks like a child. But yeah, like this is someone you developed, and now you've got him locked in for the foreseeable future, and he's the face of the franchise now. And to me, that's exciting. That knowing that the Red Sox now have a player that you can build around, and that is the face of the franchise. And because that was uncertain, we did not know what was going to happen. They had the Mookie Betts situation happened, then Bogarts. Like if there was a repeat with Devers, it was going to be a hard hill to climb for this, both ownership and the front office, to get back in the good graces of the fans. Yep. And there's still work to be done. Don't get me wrong. This team is not complete. They still have, like, we'll talk about in a little bit. There's still 40-man moves. There's still stuff to do with the major league team. Yep. But getting this done is just a massive hurdle, and I think it's just a relief for everyone involved, because now they can focus on completing the roster and completing the team for this year, and then building towards the future, and not have this looming every step of the way.
Amen. What else is there on Devers?
I think the one I know one thing to talk about is that I think this is a good deal regardless of where he ends up defensively. I think that's the other thing to talk about is like they're not paying him.
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Like if Judge ends up a DH or the Yankees going to be complaining about how much they're paying him? Probably not. Like it's the same thing with Devers. If he's only a third baseman for 3 or 4 more years, or then he has to move to first base or DH, that's fine. I'm fine paying him that much to be a DH if he hits like he's supposed to. Like that's that's the price for business these days. And with the way free agency is going, it's better to have him locked up than have to worry about replacing his production elsewhere. Because as you said, next year's class is bad, and it's only going to get worse as more of these guys sign long-term deals earlier and earlier in their careers.
It's good to see them on that train, and it's good to have a franchise cornerstone locked up who players will want to come play with, who players want to make it to the majors to play with, who fans know the guy's going to be around. There's some certainty there for a team that, like, I mean, look, I have retweeted the other day, Baseball Cube, I think it was, tweeted like, 3 longest tenured players on the Red Sox are Matt Barnes, Chris Sale, and Rafael Devers. And then, like, I pointed out, if you're going by like the major league roster, the 4th longest tenured player on this team is Ryan Brazier.
Yeah,
which I think I just triggered a bunch of people out there with that.
I mean, you just mentioned that name and it triggers a lot of people.
And I mean, look, if you include like signing with the organization, it's Darwinzon Hernandez, who signed like a month after Devers in 2013. But
yeah,
and actually I think that makes it like Barnes, Devers, Darwinzon, then Sale, because Sale they traded for Sale in 2016.
Yeah.
Because Dahlbeck was not drafted until
Dahlbeck
17.
was
18?
18. Dahlbeck was 18.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Oh no, Dahlbeck was 16. Wait, really?
Yeah. Okay. So then I guess if you're going minors, it's Devers, Darwin. Barnes, because Barnes was the 10 draft.
Barnes was
first
10.
Rounder at 10. So it's Barnes.
No. Barnes was 11.
Barnes was 11.
10 was Kluber and Vidic. Barnes was the first draft of the bets here. It was Barnes, Swihart, Owens,
That's
Bradley.
right. Okay, that's right. Okay. So tenure wise, if you include the minors, it goes Barnes, Devers, Darwinzon, then Sale. Or no, Dahlbeck.
No, well, it depends on because
Dahlbeck was 16. Sale was December of 16.
Yeah.
So Dahlbeck, then Sale. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glad we did that.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, after those guys, you've got Brazier signed as a minor league free agent in July of 2018, or not, so didn't sign in July of 18. He signed in the offseason, got added to the major league roster in July. Josh Taylor, they traded for in November of 18. And after that, after those 7 guys, you get Alex Verdugo, February of 2020. Eighth longest tenure in the system. I mean, at that point, you're starting to talk about guys in the minor leagues who've been around forever, but 8th longest tenure on the major league roster is a guy who came in 2020. There's 4 guys on the roster who predate Chaim Bloom. No, sorry, that's wrong. There are 6 guys who are on the 40-man roster when Bloom took over.
Yeah, because
Dahlbeck was November of 19 to protect him from Rule 5.
Yeah, there were guys in the org though.
They were in the org. I'm saying on the 40-man roster.
Well, no, because
there are 6 guys on the 40-man roster who were on the 40-man roster when Chaim Bloom took over.
Yes, correct. Because you have to word it that way. Because a bunch of the prospects they added were here before.
Dahlbeck, Houck was the 17 draft,
but even Casas was here before Chaim Bloom, technically.
I guess
Casas was drafted before.
He was drafted by Dombrowski.
Yeah. Yep. That was my point. Is so you have to specify on the 40-man roster. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
It just shows. I mean, it shows there's been a lot of turnover. And there's obviously going to be more 40-man turnover coming because we still have not found out that Justin Turner or Corey Kluber moves yet. Well,
not only that, they still have other guys to go get. But let's start with Kluber and Turner. I mean,
when do we start being oh, this is interesting?
Not yet. I'm not there. It's a fair question to ask.
Turner was revealed was leaked on Twitter the 18th.
Yeah, but the thing is, baseball over Christmas is just kind of
I know. Yeah. And I'm sure he's on vacation for Christmas and he's not going to come back from wherever he was to take a physical.
Right.
I get that, but I don't know. I feel like we'll probably hear something by the end of this week.
I think they're trying to trade guys off the 40-man.
Oh, 100%. They definitely are trying to make trades. I think though, and I think that I think I kind of underplayed it. The reports coming out about the trade market seem very legit because nothing is getting done. Nothing major. The only major deal really was the Murphy trade, right? Am I missing anything else?
The Murphy trade?
Sean Murphy.
Oh, Sean Murphy.
Not just the Red Sox, just in all of baseball.
Oh, just trades generally?
Yeah, that's my point is that there's just been not a lot of trades.
Yeah. And there was also a decent free agent class.
Well, no, but I think what it comes down to is what people have talked about that. And I heard this, hearing about because you had the Blue Jays trade, but that involved major leaguers. Teams are just very reluctant to give up close to big league ready prospects.
And that's what other teams trading major leaguers want. Yep.
And what teams want to give up, and it's the same thing with the Red Sox situations. They want to give up those guys who are in the low minors, the middle infielders, the pitchers, whatever, who have upside, but they're a ways away. That's what they're trying to trade from. And thing is, teams just don't want that. You saw the Sean Murphy trade was 3. The Braves got 3 big leaguers back, or 3 guys with MLB experience back.
The A's, you mean?
Sorry, the A's. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what teams want or are valuing. And the Red Sox aren't going to trade Brian Bayo. They're not going to trade Tristan Casas. They're not going to trade Marcelo Meyer. And it doesn't seem like they want to trade Cedric Rafaela. So you're left with, you're going to be picking from Tanner Houck, Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran's not getting you very much. Tanner Houck, you could definitely get a legit piece for, but you have to find a trade partner for that. And it's just, I think that's kind of the position they're caught in, is that the guys they want, they can't get without giving up players they don't want to give up. And rightfully so. They shouldn't give up Costas. They shouldn't give up Bella. That's, you don't going 2 steps back to take 1 step forward is not worth it by trading those guys. So it's just an interesting situation where now, as you said, like we're waiting for these moves. They have to make at least 2 and probably 3, because I still think they need to add 1 more position player. And like, I don't know who they're if you're not making a trade, like you're cutting someone who has big league experience, probably, right? Like the options seem to be
the people want us to predict who they're gonna remove from the 40 man to make room. The options going down in no particular order. Just off the top of my head,
I would just go for tenure, and you can just say Matt Barnes, no.
Right.
Sale,
okay,
no.
yeah, fine. You want to go down the whole thing?
Yeah, just do
Barnes,
it this way.
no.
Yeah.
Sale, no. Devers, obviously, no. Brazier, sure.
Maybe.
Maybe. Josh Taylor,
maybe,
but I don't think it's as likely as people think it is.
I based on the way they've operated, I think they're penciling him in as the second lefty this year. So I don't think he would be.
Darwinzon Hernandez, I could see.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. He also, Darwinzon is a great example of someone where if he was right-handed, he's probably already DFA'd. But because he's a lefty, you get to stick around. You get a much longer leash. Bobby
Dahlbeck, I think they're going to try and trade.
He's not going to get DFA'd.
He's not going to get DFA'd. Alex Verdugo, no. Nick Pivetta, no. Christian Arroyo, no. Tanner Houck, no. Trade candidate.
Yeah.
Brian Mata, no. Maybe trade candidate.
I can see him being a trade candidate, but he's not going to get DFA'd.
He's not going to get DFA'd. Wong, of course not. Connor Siebold,
I think could be.
He's not the next DFA. Put it that way. There are a number of guys. If they DFA'd,
I would not have him as the next DFA. It wouldn't. Right. I would not be shocked if he did get DFA'd at some point.
Correct. I think it's more likely they try and move him, even if it's just for like
cash considerations or
Christian costs. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean.
Whitlock, no.
Whitlock, of course not. Kike, no.
Duran, I think they're trying to trade,
and you don't DFA him.
No.
You're a year away from that even being possible.
Cutter
Crawford, no. Winkowski, no. Bayo, of course not. Paxton, of course not, especially on that contract. Trevor Story, no.
No.
John Schreiber, no. Rob Refsnyder, no. Caleb Ort.
Maybe.
I think that they view him as a up and down guy who's got value for 2 more years.
Yeah.
Because he's got options.
Yep.
Who, like, yeah, you could DFA him, but you're just going to wind up replacing him with the same exact guy at some point during the year. So you might as well go with the one you've got.
Exactly.
Because arms are fungible and get hurt. Reese McGuire, no. Zach Kelly, no. Tristan Casas, no. Frank German, no. And then you get to
everyone else here is a no because
everyone else they just added in Valdez, Rafaela, Walter Murphy, Hamilton, Abreu, that's what we talked about is you don't add a guy to the 40 man just to DFA him that offseason.
Well, except for Hoy Park, but
well, they traded him. But yes, we talked about that last time. People loved that we spent that long on Hoy Park.
I know, it was great.
If only they knew how much got left on the cutting room floor.
Did
I already say that on this show that like my wife texted me all caps, "You're yelling" while we recorded that?
Things got heated. What can you say?
If people could hear, you were.
Yeah, no. So it's an interesting position. And it's something's gonna have to give at some point. Like either they're gonna have to make a trade or they're gonna have to do something. And I do think they're just trying to buy as much time as possible to see if there's a 2 for like. Can you flip Duran and Brazier or Dahlbeck and Duran for something like a 2 for 1? But if they can't do that, I think it's going to be one of those pitchers most likely. I think
the 2-man package they should be looking at is Houck and Rafaela. Call me crazy.
Yeah. Or Houck and Dahlbeck, Houck and Duran.
Get a damn good player for Houck and Rafaela.
Well, and this is the thing, and this is the other thing, and something that we'll probably talk about on a future episode is like what I would like to see this season is kind of have some conviction about your prospects in the sense that like if you think Tristan Casas and Brian Bayo are future like key contributors to your team, pay them now. Give them 8-year deals with 2 options. Get them locked in for the next 10 years. And I think the same thing can be applied to Rafaela. If you're convinced Rafaela is a everyday player, potentially a 60 type, okay, that's fine. Then you don't trade him. You don't trade him, and frankly, you try to you see how he does this year, and then you look to extend him potentially.
So who do you think, Ian? Who do you think gets removed from the 40? What two players and how?
It's tricky.
It
I'm gonna
is.
go one trade of one player, TBD who.
Oh,
Can I
that's
cheat
not.
like that?
That's
No,
no.
why?
That's
I
cheating.
hedging
People
is
want to
fun.
know who.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna say Ryan Brazier trade for a bag of baseballs.
I don't know. Does he have trade value? I don't know if he
For a
does.
bag of baseballs, sure. You get
Maybe.
some C-level team
Is he out of
that is gonna
options or
trade you. What's that?
does he have an option or is he out?
He's done. No, he's
No.
out of options. He's also past 5 years service time, so you'd have to
Oh,
get his
right. So
permission
you
to
could, yeah,
option him anyway.
yeah.
But no, so here's the thing. He could be a buy low, sell higher piece for a team that's not in contention. Like if the
I
I don't know
guess, yeah.
fastball plays up or something, if your analytics team is telling you there's something there,
Yeah. I
I
guess,
could
yeah.
see Devers being moved for a bag of baseballs.
You definitely could not see Devers being moved for a bag of
Not Devers,
baseballs.
Brazier. Jesus, wow. All right.
It's a good thing I'm here.
Thank God.
Um,
Thank God for Ian.
so Brazier is your first guess. What's your
Yes.
second?
Give me a minute. Who's your first?
Um,
I don't know. And by the way, I'll vamp while you're thinking. Just because we can't figure out who gets removed from the roster, this is an argument I got in on the forum. There is not what I would refer to as a 40-man crunch.
no,
There are like 5 players I'm perfectly fine with removing from this roster.
Yeah, I'm trying. Like that's the thing is like I'm not trying to put
They're
on
just not
because
DFA-able.
who I would do is different than what I think they will do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do? Let's start there.
Or it would be
Brazier's
first.
definitely one.
I would have a word, or it would be one, and Brazier would be the other.
Yeah,
And the reasoning for that is with Brazier,
or it's fungible.
I'll go get out. Or there's a fungible relief depth. I personally think Zach Kelly's better than him. I think that you can sign someone as a minor league free agent who can fill the same role and yo-yo back and forth. And I just think that I'd rather give others a look in that spot. And with Brazier, I don't think he's worth paying $2 million plus a year, which is what he's going to get in ARB or 1.8, whatever the projection was on MLB trade rumors. I don't think he's worth that. I think that he's someone that if he was a free agent would get maybe the minimum, maybe $1 million at most. So
Right.
I just don't think he's worth what the numbers can end up being. So I would move on from him also.
But we get asked, I think on Twitter, or maybe it's an email and we'll see it in a minute, but like, is Brazier's money guaranteed this year because they tendered him a contract?
It's unclear.
If they agree to a contract with them, then he is guaranteed the money. I think if they get rid of him before they agree to a contract with him, like, yeah, they tendered him a contract, but like,
this is
what do you do? Do you go to arbitration with a guy who's no longer on your team? I don't know how that works.
Well, that's
like I've just never seen it.
Well, because it doesn't happen. You don't tender a contract and then get rid of a guy.
And then get rid of a guy.
Which is my argument of why I don't think he's going to, which I'm arguing against myself now. But I guess no, because I said in the last bit, this is what I would do. I don't think this is what they're going to do. And it's because like my argument back when we had this first debate privately was, then what's the point of the ARB deadline? Why not just tender everyone a contract? And then if you're when you're ready to move on from them, you just move on from them if there's no punishment. Yeah. Right. So that's why, like, I could see it if it's not Brazier. I could see being Siebold or someone or Darwinzon for that reason. Like
Jaron Duran trade.
Yeah.
Bobby Dahlbeck trade.
But yeah, so I don't. It's not clear to me, and I think it's hard to say because the CBA is not out yet still. So Bobby all that Dahlbeck I feel like trade. That stuff would be clarified in the CBA.
I'll go ahead and say Bobby Dahlbeck trade.
Is that your official? So yeah,
I don't think it's correct, but I also don't know what else to go with.
I don't know. They have like several guys.
Well, put it this way: if they hadn't just traded Jacob Wallace for Wyatt Mills, wouldn't he be like near the top of this list?
I'd rather have Wyatt Mills than Caleb Ort.
Yeah, that's fair. He's got at least a
that's why I said
angle.
I think Ort would be first for me. I just don't. I
could see Ort. I just think if it was Ort, that he'd be gone already. But what do I know?
Maybe, but I don't know. It's just at some point, and I keep going back to this thing, is they do need to balance the 40-man sum. There's way too many pitchers on it right now.
There's way too many.
They don't have any like depth at certain spots on the 40-man. Like They only have 2 catchers on the 40-man right now. They don't have a backup middle infield. They only have one. They have 0 shorts. They have 0 true shortstops on the 40-man right now. Think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
I mean, if you don't count Story, and
like I'm going off of last season because
not counting Hamilton, not counting Rafaela, not counting.
Well, because I think Rafael is a center fielder. He's played there pretty more than shortstop last year. I saw Hamilton shortstop. I saw him at second base. I didn't like him at shortstop. I think he's more of a second baseman, center fielder type. They don't have like a true shortstop on the 40-man roster, which I just think is kind of crazy. And it's like, at some point that's going to have to change. You know what I mean? I don't think you can go into the season with 2 catchers and no shortstops on your 40-man roster. So
yeah, it's kind of bonkers.
Like, yeah,
there's more moves coming. All right. Shall we jump into emails?
Yes.
Okay. Again, if you want to hit us up, you can email us at podcast@soxprospects.com. That's where the emails go. And we'll get to your emails. There are a few, actually. All right. Our first is from Matthew. And he says, I really appreciate the hard work that you all do for the show. And he has a lot more nice things to say. He says, I'm nearing retirement and I'm thinking about moving to a location where I can enjoy minor league baseball all summer long. Don't we all? I'm thinking about season tickets and possibly working or volunteering at a park. This guy's got his head in the right place. Putting aside cost of living, weather, and other factors for now, and just looking at ballpark, baseball talent, etc. for a moment, what would you consider if you were to move to Salem, Greenville, Portland, or Worcester? Which would you choose and why? My first thought is Portland, since the most talented players pass through there and it doesn't have some of the older and 4A guys like Worcester. I'm interested in your thoughts. This is an interesting question, Ian, and I think it goes to a different place than where we have discussed this earlier, because we have talked up the hell out of Greenville.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yep.
Portland is Portland, Maine.
Portland's
which is
fantastic.
Also great.
I mean, yeah, I've gone up there and stayed. When I go up there, sometimes I'll just stay up for the weekend there.
Worcester is a gorgeous park.
Fantastic park. They're really rebuilding that whole area too. Like it's really changing.
Salem is, you get to see the guys at the youngest level. You're going to see them above the complex, which is also really interesting.
Beautiful views of the mountains.
Beautiful views of the mountains from that park. I might lean Portland as much as I love Greenville.
What would you do? Read the criteria again.
So I think it's not factoring in cost of living, not factoring in weather.
It's just purely baseball.
So if it's purely
because weather is the tricky
just
one.
Looking at ballpark, baseball talent, etc. So I think he's saying taking out. Well, I guess you're taking out cities at that point too.
Well, because the weather part is hard because Portland in April and May is rough. Like,
yeah, but then you get the summer. Whereas the summer in South Carolina is kind of hot.
Oh, agreed. But like I've been games in May in Portland wearing like 6 layers.
Sure.
Like it's not fun. You know, I remember distinctly a Matt Barnes outing in Portland, and when would have that been 2013, probably 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Matt Barnes was in Portland.
In 14, so Portland would have been
probably 13.
Yeah.
And it was like 25 degrees in mid-May. And I was wearing like 6 layers. And
no, it might have been 14 because he debuted in September. So
no, it was 13. He was in Portland only in 13.
Okay.
But
yeah,
and it was cold. Like, and that's like, yeah, that's tough. So, but I think in terms of just the baseballing aspect of it, I think that.
Well, he said you can factor in ballpark, and so to me, like, look, no disrespect to Salem, but like that's 4th out of 4 ballparks, not even close. Even though they've got a great view of the mountains. Best ballpark is Worcester.
Yeah, Worcester's the best ballpark. But it's also the newest, so it's not fair. Like comparing Worcester's ballpark and the amount of money they spent on it to any other minor league park,
even like Hadlock is tough. Yeah,
like I prefer personally Greenville's park to Fluor Field to Hadlock, and I think that the improvements they've made at Fluor Field, like the amenities, it's more modern than Hadlock is. Hadlock has that like old school feel to it.
Yeah,
it's
It depends on what you feel, how you feel about talent too, though. Because are you the type of person that wants to see these guys far enough away that they're all like, you know, look, by the time Brian Bonacy gets to Portland, you might not care about him anymore. Right?
That's the thing. Is like it's also, I think it's more fun to see them in Greenville because you can see like weirder things where guys just like Joe Davis is a great example. You're not going to see him in Portland. Like that guy hits 150 in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
But you get to see him in Greenville and have fun with that. Or like you get to see certain players, you know, have like a 275 or 250 and like 30 home runs in Greenville who then go to Double-A and are going to hit like 160, 170. Like Nick Northcutt, good example. Like someone who you get to see him hit a ton of home runs, and like that type of player doesn't work in Double-A. So if you want to see that player succeed and have fun, like that's the Greenville experience. Whereas you get to Portland, it's going to weed out, and you're going to see the top talent is going to shine more, but you're also going to have higher highs but lower lows. Whereas I think Greenville and everything is more like kind of like even. It's more balanced.
Yeah, like it's Salem and Greenville. When you get bad teams, they're like, it's a bunch of like, so it's like, say like the Greenville pitching staff this year where like no one really stood out, but there are a couple guys who are like, maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas by Portland, it's like the Portland
lineup
this year for a lot of the year was like, good. Like,
I think for me, it's Greenville, but it's really close. And I think,
see the argument for like Double-A is where Mookie Betts broke out. Double-A is where Ryan Bayo broke out. Double-A is where Brandon Walter broke out. Like Double-A is where you see stars made, and there's something to be said for that.
That's what I'm saying. It's you get the higher highs but the lower lows.
Yep.
Whereas in Greenville, you're going to see like, but I think just for me personally, it's just I think the ballpark thing. I just think that from a scouting perspective, Greenville is more comfortable than Portland. But
great question.
Either of those two choices is you can't go wrong.
Agreed. All right, our next question, Ian, is from Libsyn. No, our next question is from Dan. He says, who makes way on the 40-man roster for Kluber and Turner? We did that already.
I can't wait for the next episode when it's just we're both wrong.
Yeah. Do you think they're trying to work on a Dahlbeck trade? I feel like Dahlbeck would be claimed.
Yeah, Dahlbeck doesn't make any sense on the current roster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
Next question is from Mark in Maine. He says, how concerned are you with Tristan Casas' splits versus lefties? He's still getting on base against them, but not hitting them at all. Is there hope he can avoid being a platoon player?
I'm not concerned yet. I understand, like, it's a very small sample size in the majors. Obviously, he had some platoon splits in the minors also. And I do think that, he's going to end up being a better hitter against righties than lefties.
Yes.
But I think that he'll get to a serviceable level against lefties that I'm not concerned about it long term. Like even I'm not concerned long term. He
hits the ball hard. He puts in good at bats. This is not a guy who's up there, who's Hackasaurus, taking wild swings. He's a disciplined hitter. He's a guy whose stats in the minors are not super flashy. Right, like he had that year in 2021 where it got broken up by the Olympics and being hurt, and being hurt this year. Like, but yeah, I mean, look, he had a split, but like he hits velocity well, he hits off speed well, he hits spin reasonably well.
I think he'll get up to like, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being like only like a 220, 230 hitter against lefties, but it's going to come with pop. It's going to come with like a 370, 350, 360 OBP and like a 420-ish slug. Like it'll be fine. And then if he's hitting, 280, 380, 500 against righties, you're not going to care. Like that'll play still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The guy who emailed us about, do you think Devers would accept an extension? Said, well, I was clearly wrong. Only bit I was right about was the Trey Turner deal was not big enough for him. I do think Devers would have gotten more next season as a free agent. Yeah, we agree with you, Kevin. He would have. And actually, that's it. So that's our emails again. Podcast@soxprospects.com. Podcast@soxprospects.com. Send us your emails. We'll read them on a future episode, potentially. I think we can go be happy about life now. Thank you all for listening to the show. If you want to support us, you can do so on patreon.com/SoxProspects. I want to shout out to our newest $5 level Patreon supporter, Jay Harrington, and shout out our next 10 Patreon supporters. That's Deb Kendall, Andrew Wallen, Lendl Martin, Ernest Shermer, Kyle C., Tyler Woodrow, Pat in New Hampshire, Jeff Trainer, David R. Nardone, and Tim Harding. Hit us up on Twitter. Follow Ian at Ian Cuddle. That's IANCUNDALL. Follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. Follow the site at Sox Prospects on both Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram as well. I'm not doing anything yet. I have some ideas. But yeah, I'm on there as well. Email, we already said. Patreon, I think that's everything. Rate and review us. Thank you all. Go be happy about life now. Go eat a banana. Get some potassium. We'll be back in your eardrum soon. Thanks.